All right. Well, I'm here with Doug to talk about ransomware on a webcam and many other things. It is Friday, March 7, 2025.
All right, Sam, I got to tell you the big
Yeah.
story that's untold this week.
Yeah?
Do you have any idea what that is with scammers?
Well, no. I haven't heard anything really new and exciting in the world of scams.
This is unbelievable. In Dubai, there was a raid and over 2,000 scammers have been arrested.
Oh,
2,000. They have essentially, it's an entire city. And it was run by Chinese nationalists and they had employees, scammers working in 5 buildings in one area in Dubai, and then in several other cities near Dubai, they also had scammers working. They had entire apartment complexes filled with people either living or scamming in the apartments. Now that the raid is gone, these apartments are completely vacant. Nobody's there, meaning that nobody was not part of the scamming. So they're being deported. But the Chinese nationalists, I believe, are being held. So let me tell you how large this is. They had their own doctor with their own pharmacy to take care of all the scammers, the 2,000 plus scammers that they had. And it's estimated that there were a lot more scammers that were there. So they had a pharmacy. They even had blood machines. I'm going to joke here, maybe the Theranos from Elizabeth Holmes, they got a
yeah.
discount. No, they had a real blood machine. They were drawing blood samples and prescribing medicine to people based on those blood tests. So
Yeah.
the scams included romance scam, right, which has been around for quite a long time.
Yeah.
But what's interesting is they brought in female models. And so they could do a live one-on-one WhatsApp chat,
Oh, I bet
right?
that makes it much more lucrative.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So, and those women got arrested too. They seized over $20 million US dollars in cash. So they were doing quite well. Let's see. And most of the scammers were either Eastern Asian or North African. And kind of really interesting to see the footage. But what's more interesting about this story is how come the news hasn't picked this up? This should
Yeah.
be an enormous news story.
You would think so. And I kind of
Yeah.
wonder why they bothered, because usually they prey on Americans, and I wouldn't think the local law enforcement really give a damn about that, but maybe they were preying on locals.
No, so they were working out of Dubai. The other thing is they had so much phone traffic that they had the cell phone company come in and bring their own cell phone tower just for them.
Yeah.
Okay, so they were scamming people all over the world, all countries, all nations. So it wasn't
Uh,
specifically Dubai oriented.
that's the problem. In Russia, what you have to do is make sure you never target people inside Russia, and the government will not prosecute you.
Yeah, yeah,
These
yeah.
guys didn't seem to know the rules.
Well, I don't think they were going after people in Dubai.
And then I'm surprised Dubai would bother breaking them up.
Yeah, so the story's unfolding, but if you take a look on YouTube, there's a guy by the name of Jim Browning. That's his alias name. And he has a video, and the pictures are amazing. I mean, they have streets lined with people in handcuffs ready to go on buses, to
Yeah.
be taken into custody.
Yeah. I wonder if the people there were forced into it, because that's one thing I've read is a lot of them are sort of, basically prisoners. They promise them a job, bring them in from foreign country, force them to work at a scam factory, take away their passport. They're indentured
Right.
servants or something. Yeah.
Yeah. So Jim Browning, again, alias, has received some video footage and pictures from the inside. And yeah, you're absolutely right. This one gentleman said that he was hired to do cut and paste,
Right.
just cut and paste data, and wasn't really told what he was doing.
Yeah.
So yeah, I get it. I get it. Whoop, whoop. So anyway, that's the big news story for this week
Yeah. Yeah.
internationally.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Sounds
your
good.
turn. What do you
Yeah.
have?
Well, I've got only a little bit of politics this week. I guess maybe the courts are holding back Trump from doing as many crazy things. But Finland has ended homelessness essentially with a policy that we should certainly do here, although it contradicts our Puritan values. They decided to focus on housing first. Those affected by homelessness receive a small apartment and counseling without any preconditions. And the result is 4 out of 5 people thus affected make their way back into a stable life. And it saves money. It's much cheaper than tolerating homelessness. So you give them a home, and after that, they can get a job and stuff. So anyway, it'd be nice if we would take care of that, our people that way here. Uh, and
Yeah. Interesting.
yeah, I mean, anyway, there's
Okay.
A French university has offered to fund American scientists who are no longer able to pursue their science in America because of the cultural revolution from Trump crushing them. They're going to provide 15 million euros for 15 researchers in forbidden topics like climate, environment, health, human and social science. This is a wise idea, and sort of a horrible time we're going through. Uh, and the Michael Sheen is a Hollywood actor. I don't know anything about him, but he promised to help people in trouble, so he bought £1 million worth of people's debts using £100,000 of his own money just to relieve them from debt. I've heard of also a state that did this. You can buy debt for pennies on the dollar and
Huh.
relieve people of that. So, and something I don't expect to happen very often, Tulsi Gabbard did something right. Um, the Apple backdoor that the UK forced the Apple to put in, or they
Yeah.
forced Apple to not encrypt the cloud stuff end to end. So Ron Wyden, of course, wrote a letter, uh, made a stink about this, and said the United States should investigate why they did this, why they didn't even tell us. And Tulsi Gabbard is investigating. So, the issue of privacy is one of those rare issues where the Democrats and Republicans both agree for different reasons. So she may actually demand some answers out of the UK about what's going on with that, and that would be nice. And
Yeah. Interesting.
and my last politics one is it came out that Trump now has a pay-to-play scheme where for $5 million you can meet one-on-one with Trump at his estate, and you can get a hot ticket opportunity in the business world. And for those looking for a classier fare, they can pay $1 million to dine with the president in a candlelit group setting. So this is where you get a chance to influence the president by just paying to play. All attempts to pay any attention to the emoluments clause are long gone. He's hawking cryptocurrencies and uh, just selling. He's totally for sale. You can just bribe him to get him to do anything you want.
So it's a $5 million dinner.
$5 million one-on-one meeting and a
Oh,
$1 million dinner.
1 million for the
That's
dinner.
in a group setting. But in any case, this is how you pay to influence the president. And I just heard on a podcast about somebody that was being investigated for a crime. So they bought $50 million of Trump coin, and now suddenly the investigation goes away. So, it's classic corruption. There are many, many ways to bribe Trump now. It used to be that you had to like rent rooms at his hotel or something, but now there's a bunch of ways to pay him directly for favors.
Yeah. So are you following the TikTok saga?
I didn't know there was one. I thought TikTok was now okay again.
Well, there's a consortium that's willing to buy TikTok.
Oh yeah.
And yeah, so it's a like an open consortium, and the one of the founders of TikTok has put up the money. They've definitely got the money. They've got the cash, and they've. I'm a little unclear about this, but I don't think they want the algorithm. They just want to own the company.
But does TikTok need to sell? I thought they knocked off forcing them to sell.
Yeah, see, this is where this gets interesting.
And is the founder an American or a Chinese national?
Yeah, yeah, I believe he's an American.
Oh, I thought TikTok was completely a Chinese product, but I don't know.
No, no, sorry, the founder of Reddit.
Oh, I heard about that. Yeah, Reddit always wants to bring back Dig. I heard that. You're right. Uh, which I used to like Dig. I wouldn't mind it coming back, I suppose. But yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. But I mean, that's the world of social media.
yeah, yeah, right, right,
Yeah.
right.
Well, And I got a lot of information security this time, not what I usually have had lately, but the one that caught my attention I thought was the most important. There's a ransomware gang decided to hack a company, so they managed to get execution on the boxes, and they tried to run ransomware, but the Windows EDR blocked it. So they scanned the network and found a Linux-based webcam, and they installed ransomware on the webcam and used it over SMB to encrypt all the files from there. And I've been waiting for this for years. Your endpoint devices and your IoT devices are entry points into your network. And I read recently that most attacks now attack routers and VPN, your edge devices. And so I always wondered, what can you do when you're on the edge device? And apparently you can access all the SMB shares and encrypt the stuff from there. So everybody, I think, is vulnerable to this. Nobody has defenses or detection activities that will detect when your end devices get hacked and your
Hmm.
IoT devices. I think the only answer here is what one of my students said. He said you're going to have to segment your network, take all your IoT devices over and separate them from your Windows boxes.
Yeah.
But I don't
Yeah.
think you can do that with your router. And anyway, I think everybody's vulnerable to this, and there is no easy solution. There's not something you can buy that will fix this.
Yeah. I don't think there is either.
This is what I've been saying for the last year or two on Pulse Security Weekly is we really need a lot more security on edge devices. Your edge device ought to be as secure as your iPhone. It ought to only run software that comes from the manufacturer that is signed, but they don't. They don't have that limitation, and they don't even detect the integrity of the software, and they're just sitting ducks.
Yeah. I wonder, could you, I'm just thinking off the top of my head, what if you had a router front ended by a router?
I don't
So
think
you,
that would do any good if it's vulnerable. They're both vulnerable.
well, you'd have to compromise one router
Yeah,
and then compromise a second router.
yeah, that doesn't sound difficult at all.
Yeah, look, yeah. Well, different manufacturers, different vectors of attack.
Yeah, but I mean, the main thing is that at least
Yeah,
one of them has to actually be secure, and they ought to just
yeah, yeah,
only run official signed firmware. I would think would be the answer, but
yeah, yeah. All right, all right.
yeah. Well, the House has passed a bill requiring federal contractors to implement vulnerability disclosure policies, and boy, that would be nice. I remember I reported hundreds of vulnerabilities, and there's usually nobody to tell, and when you reach them, they don't understand it. It would be a good idea if it was just standard business practice that for everything you sell, there must be like a way to report a vulnerability to somebody who will actually understand what you're talking about.
Yeah, 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 yeah,
Yep.
yeah, yeah.
And so ISC squared, the people that make the CISSP, they published an article saying women are 22% of the cybersecurity workforce, and they would like to see more women. And they say March is Women's History Month, and throughout the month, we'll be publishing a series of women in cyber articles based on ISC2 research findings from women working in the cybersecurity profession. All of which is fine, except apparently they didn't notice the last election where all this is completely forbidden. And anybody doing government business in America has to remove any such DEI content, I think. This must be someone left over or some plan from before the election. I imagine they'll
Or
get
it's
paged down soon.
yeah, or it's being ignored.
Well, I know I would like to imagine that ISC squared is heroically standing up to the Republican administration and saying we care about DEI, and I highly doubt that. I think they're completely corporate kowtowing to the government kind of group. I think they're just too incompetent to realize that the current rules do not allow you to celebrate Women's History Month or anything.
Yeah, yeah. Okay.
Anyway, we'll see what happens. I know
Yeah.
the guy in the Texas who just got fired, I think from the legislature, from a government agency, by refusing to remove the pronouns from his email signature. So the Cultural Revolution is strong in America. And any attempt to say anything against any form of discrimination is now harshly punished.
Hmm. Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay.
Um, so there's one I read about this years ago. People are talking about a moon base, and they're saying we're going to have to put satellites around the moon to make GPS on the moon, so we can navigate there. And what the Blue Ghost lander, what I think is the third-party moon mission, it used the Earth's GPS system to navigate on the moon by just doing mathematical calculations, which is pretty clever.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's interesting to know. You may not need a specialized lunar positioning system. You can just use the Earth-based one. I
Y-
wouldn't think you'd have enough angle difference, but apparently you do.
Yeah. I, I, yeah, I would think you would.
Yeah, I guess
Yeah,
the Earth is big enough in the sky. You can triangulate from that. I bet it's
yeah,
not as accurate as the Earth-based one, but apparently it's good enough.
yeah, or at least good enough for now. But what do you do on the dark side, on the back side of the moon?
That's an issue. Yep, yep. Anyway,
Yeah.
so there's an article called Zen and the Art of Microcode Hacking, which is very nice. It goes through explaining. I didn't really know. So microcode is code in the processor. Apparently, the modern the Intel-based CPUs are so complicated. You know, they have a CISC, complex instruction set. Some of those instructions actually require code in the processor. And that code can be updated because had previous generations where there were bugs and you had to replace the hardware. So they have microcode in the processor. And you can put in malicious microcode because the integrity control is poorly designed. The updates are verified using a CMAC signature, which is not the best way to make a signature. It's depending on a secret key. And what did they use for the secret key? They used the example key from the NIST SP 800-3638B publication. This has come out a lot. A lot of encryption just uses the demo key because they just copied the demo
And
code.
paste it.
Yeah, yeah. And say, there, it's encrypted. And it's why I fault managers. I've been beating this drum for maybe 5 years. Your manager should ask you simple questions about your cryptography. What is the
Yeah.
key? Where did you put it? And did you just use a well-known public number for the key? I mean, this should, anyway, that's what they did. So you can just upload malicious microcode in. Uh,
So Sam, is there an NVRAM that's in the processor, or where's
I,
the microcode stored?
Something like that. There's some kind of erasable memory within the processor. I don't know
Yeah.
exactly which
Okay.
technology it is. Yeah, apparently they have updated the firmware to use a better signature algorithm now.
Oh, okay.
But
So
I
I
don't know how you
wonder.
would tell. I don't know how you would tell whether your processor has been updated. I don't think processors have automatic updates of the microcode. I don't quite understand under what circumstances they would update the microcode.
Yeah, and how would you get to it to update it? You're coming from a disk or
I guess you're going to have to be running some kind of software on an operating system that somehow pushes it down. It's a good question. And this is all about AMD Zen microcode signature. So there must be some process to update the microcode in your AMD processor. I've never done it. I don't really know what it would be. I would guess boot from a USB or something.
now you're back. You froze on me for a moment.
Oh, yeah. I guess maybe you boot it from a USB. That would be the old solution. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know either. I've never heard of that, never done it, but
Yeah. Yeah, it's
uh,
yet another thing that just something people don't even think about, like they don't think about their end device, their router being hacked.
right, right, right.
These are the weak
Exactly.
spots, the spots where you don't think anything bad could happen.
Yeah.
Here's a cute one. Suppose you want to track somebody's physical location. Well, you could sneak an AirTag into their luggage or something, or you could just sneak malware on their device that will turn the Bluetooth low energy into an AirTag. In principle, AirTags are supposed to only accept signals from real AirTags, but apparently the cryptographic identifier is reversible. So they wrote malware that can make a signal that is perceived by the network as an AirTag, and then you can track it with Find My iPhone. Apparently, they did update the AirTag system to be less forgeable, but the problem is there's legacy versions of AirTags out there, so they can't quit supporting the old vulnerable protocol. So you can
I
just
see.
put malware on any device with Bluetooth and then track it with Find My iPhone. So that's,
Nice, nice.
when I have students that actually have like someone stalking them and hunting them down. And the problem is, if you start thinking, if somebody really wanted to find you, how do you hide? And that's really not easy to do anymore. There are so many ways to track you.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So, Celebrite, Celebrite is the company that makes phone hacking software, and
Right.
they made, of course, software so anyone with physical access to a locked Android device can use a zero-day attack to bypass the lock screen and gain privileged access on the device and get all the data off it. This targets Linux kernel USB drivers and is not limited to a particular device or vendor. It could even apply to other versions of Linux, although there's no evidence of that happening yet. But anyway, the particular reason it hit the news is they attacked a Serbian student activist, and Celebrite says they're deactivating that government's install of Celebrite because they tried not to get in. You're not supposed to use it for scandalously evil things. Uh,
And do you know why? Do you know why the government went after the Serbian
um, apparently something that outside their policies, just
government
just for
Yeah,
just for protesting, and they claim they don't want their software used for human rights violations and by nasty countries and stuff. So
yeah,
it's bad
yeah,
press for
yeah,
them. So they claim they turn it off when they catch them doing that. There's a lot of scandals of oppressive regimes using their Celebrite to suppress the press and all that.
yeah, yeah.
And
Okay.
and I only have one more, but it's good fun. So a student named Roy Lee at Columbia applied to Amazon, and Amazon apparently has a brutal technical interview where you have to write all this very difficult code. So he just wrote an AI that will totally make the AI write the code, and he passed and was totally accepted. And then somebody ratted out and said, "Hey, he made an AI do it." And he said, and so they're expelling him from Columbia, and he says, "I don't care." And on top of that, I regard the fact that this worked as proof that the test is meaningless and the job isn't worth getting. The whole thing can be done by AI, apparently. To hell with all of you. So, it's interesting in a lot of ways. Interesting as sort of a act of protest and also as a technical point. Um,
Yeah,
and maybe all these guys saying AI can replace people have a point. But I think it just shows this guy should get a good job. He's clever at programming AI. That's probably a more valuable skill than whatever this coding skill they thought they were testing for.
yeah. I heard a talk about Google interviews, and they said that they ask questions that are really off the wall.
Oh, I remember they
And
asked one like if you were shrunk down to 1 inch high and thrown in a blender, how would you do?
yeah,
And I never understood what the answer is or how this is supposed to tell them anything useful about the candidate.
well, yeah, I guess we both saw the same talk, and yeah, I
Yeah,
heard the same thing.
yeah.
And do you know what the answer is?
I do not know the answer, and I don't know why you'd ask this question.
You ask it because it's according to Google and the people that do the interviews, everybody that they're looking at is highly talented. And they're looking for somebody who can think differently or can analyze a situation and see how they go about solving it.
I remember about 10 years ago, they said that at that time they required you to have a PhD to work at Google. And then they
Right.
tested and found out, that doesn't actually get better people. And I highly doubt that these questions really get better people. I'd like to see data. Get 50 people hired this way and 50 people hired without this and see if they're really any better.
All right. So here's the answer. You know how you get out of the blender?
No, I don't.
You
I guess I'm
jump.
not good enough to get to Google. What do you do?
You jump.
That's not, well, I guess because the square cube law means you can jump higher. I guess you could argue that, yeah.
Yeah, I
Plus
mean
fleas, yeah,
what it comes down to is animals like fleas,
yeah.
right?
They can
The
jump like
body,
100 times their own height, yeah.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Well, there's that. That's one thought. Yeah.
So that's the acceptable answer. Now we've given away everybody can get a job at Google.
Apparently so. I'm just thinking, bugs like cockroaches, they can't jump out of a blender. So I'm not so
No,
convinced
but
by that.
grasshoppers, think of
Yeah,
of
they have to be really good jumpers, which we aren't. I mean, the fact is, we
if
can jump maybe 1/4 of our height now, and if we were that big, we could probably jump 1 times our own height, which is not going to get you out.
no, but your muscle mass, as you shrink down, your
Yeah.
muscle mass proportionally increases
Yes,
in your size.
it's the square cube law.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
it's something along those lines.
I'm
And
very skeptical. To jump out of a blender, you need to jump about 1 foot up, and we can already jump about 1 foot up. And
but
you're not going to,
if you shrink down to the size of a grasshopper,
right. So if you shrink down, all right, let me try. If you shrink down by, say, a factor of 50, then you'd be able to jump 50 times your own height. It might work. Okay, maybe you could argue it. Okay.
yeah.
I'm sorry, I'm pretty skeptical, but all right.
Now the other problem is you need to factor this one in. if you're at sea level, you won't jump as high as if you take it to Mount Everest.
Well, because of gravity changing, it doesn't change that much.
No, no, air resistance.
That doesn't. The air resistance is not significant for things of this speed. That air resistance only hits in after you fall 30 feet. You have to be moving about 100 miles an hour for the air resistance to
At
matter.
that size?
Well, and now I'll give you this. If you had like some paper wings, you could probably fly out.
All right, anyway, I got two more stories. Let's move on.
Okay, go ahead.
So, under Biden administration, $6 million was given to the chip manufacturers to develop chip manufacturing in the U.S.
Six
Which,
billion, I assume.
did I say million? Billion?
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, B with a yeah.
yeah,
Sorry.
yeah.
So the chip manufacturers are building in Arizona, and the plants are. I think one is online, others are coming online over the next 2, 3 years.
And one of them's from TSMC, I think, right?
Correct.
Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's the one that's operational.
yeah,
So there's a question is if the money is going to continue flowing for that from the
yeah,
current administration.
yeah. I thought he turned it off.
Yeah. And what's happened as a result of this, stock prices have tumbled tremendously.
Yeah.
Nvidia has lost, I think, about a third of its value.
Well, yeah, I think the real reason that video lost a third of its value is because of China's DeepSeek.
Oh, no, no, I'm sorry. There's another piece to this, and those are the tariffs that Trump has decided on some tariffs to suspend them for now.
Right. And
Yeah,
the tariffs caused everything to crash.
yeah,
And
yeah,
then he immediately delayed them again. So I don't
yeah,
think they're actually ever going to take effect, which is what all Wall Street bet. I remember before the election, they asked financial people, "Why are you supporting Trump? Because those tariffs will destroy the economy." And they said, "Well, he's not really going to do that." And I think that's true. I mean, I think his deal at Mar-a-Lago, where he only talks to people that pay $5 million to talk to him, they're only rich people. So he gets an earful in a hurry if he tanks the stock market.
yeah,
So
yeah,
I
right,
think he's
right.
responsive to his actual base, and his base consists of billionaires.
Yeah, yeah. Anyway, that's it for me this time.
Okay, then that's it for me too. All right. So we'll have another one of these on Tuesday.
On Tuesday, you got it.